Do you have a list over there?
No, actually,
Or is that to take notes?
That's a great question. So here's the list of questions that we're going off of right now. So yeah, we came really prepared. We're going to try and get through all of these, but we only have so much time. So there we go.
Welcome, mountain bikers. The Inside Line Ride Along is brought to you by Maxxis Tires. They have tires for every riding condition and every riding style, so you can get the most fun out on the trails. And if you're looking for mountain bikes, parts, and riding gear, hit up jensenusa.com. Use coupon code INSIDELINE, all one word, at checkout. You can receive 10% off qualifying items. Thank you to those sponsors, and thank you, listeners. Hope you enjoy the show.
So right now there's a group of idiots who are just enjoying the very detailed sounds coming out of our earphones.
It's quite the experience.
Sweaty balls. Do you like my sweaty balls? Do you guys know that?
Yeah.
Are you old enough to know it? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Shout out to my parents. Educated
Good.
me.
I'm glad.
That's mandatory viewing for you, Jason. You need to watch Sweaty Balls. And I actually was trying
It's
to
actually a good thing we have the laptop here. No.
I was trying to get Jason to watch Heat with Pacino and De Niro the other day. And Jason, have you watched Heat 2 weeks later? No, you haven't.
Well, you're much more of a movie connoisseur than I am.
Yeah,
I don't watch anything. You know what I've watched? I was forced to watch Twilight, the first one, not New Moon. Apparently New Moon's not the one to
Is that
watch.
the vampire stuff?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
From
And
the
then
Portlandos.
I've watched both Bad Boys 1 and 2, which I feel like you would appreciate.
Yeah.
They're classics, but I mean, let's just do a quick test real quick. Would you guys rather watch Twilight or Heat? Yeah.
Heat, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know what Heat is, but
Really?
Thank
I don't
you.
want to watch Twilight.
Oh my god.
We have a great 2 against 2 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
How
know,
old are you, Charlie?
33.
How old are you two?
29.
28.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a lot older than all of you, but it's
Add 'em all up.
It's irrelevant.
little gap in generation.
That wasn't the question.
Yeah.
Mandatory viewing. Great, like mob stealing things movie. Yeah. It's like a much more serious Gone in 60 Seconds, which you probably also haven't seen.
I've definitely
Yeah.
seen it.
I don't remember movies. You can ask me about any mountain bike movie, skate movie, things that don't necessarily matter as much.
Boring.
Yeah.
I'm all about the culture.
Yeah. Speaking of, do we want to talk about mountain bike related content tonight?
No.
None
Okay.
at all? I'd be
I'm just
down.
kidding.
I'm down with that.
That's what people click on this for. It is all we talk about.
Good.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
just fly around
talking
review.
about nothing about mountain biking. Brah. I want to ask you, Charlie, when you fly, do you have to have the tray table knob straight up and down perpendicular? Or if it's crooked, do you care?
That's a great question. First off, thanks for having me on. Very flattered to be on the show. So
Oh, yeah, intros and stuff. I forget about all that.
My name's Charlie. Yeah. I used to be kind of fast. Now I'm just a guy. So honored to be here.
full of himself.
Yeah. And it's got to be vertical for sure. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's going to be because.
Do you mess with it? Like, will you tweak it if you sit down and it's crooked? Do you make it straight?
Yeah. And I might have like a little bargain with myself where I tell myself that it doesn't matter and I'm not going to do that. But by the end of the flight, it's going to be straight for sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
This is the response you want.
Yeah.
It is. Well, I have to have it straight. I can't help it. What about you, Johnny?
I don't notice it straight away, but same. Like by the end of the flight, it'll probably be straight. Like when everyone stands up and you're just kind of in this like purgatory where people's junk is just butting up against you. You're like, I just got to do something else. Like, and then you see that thing, you're like, thank God. Mess with that instead. Because I usually use the tray table, but I mean, you can relate. Legs are so long, it's like almost worse to use it sometimes. But yeah, like if I'm on a laptop, I don't even use it. Legs are taller than it anyways. So
Yeah, problems I don't have. What about you? Straight up and down?
I have never thought about it. Like literally never once have I taken note of that. I know.
All right, there you
Yeah.
go.
I'm usually so in between my ears nervous about flying. I don't like flying that much. But it's like one of those things where I like talk myself down before we take off and then usually it's okay. But during that stage when I would observe and notice those things, I'm just like breathing. I'm like, there's so many flights every day. The chance of this one going down is statistically so low. Everybody else on
Safer
here
than a
isn't
car.
freaking out.
Yeah.
maybe try it next time. It'll distract you. Something else to think about.
Maybe.
I literally pray for turbulence when I'm flying. I'm like, yes, please.
Shut up.
No, I want
It's
to.
fun.
Yeah, it's like a free roller coaster.
Try to live
right?
a little.
Yeah, like I paid for a flight, but I get a roller coaster mixed in there, and then also you get to see everyone else just melting down. Right, like
Me.
Yes, the people watching in turbulence is priceless. Yeah.
Yeah. I never really had an issue flying, and then did inside Colorado flight from like Denver to Crested Butte or somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the tiniest plane, super small plane, super short flight. But it was the first time I've ever like looked out a window and been like, oh my God, we're like so high up here. I don't know if it was just because like it felt so enclosed, but hey, ever since that flight, it's kind of freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If it's time, it's time. I'm not changing the world that much.
Yeah, right.
Small losses, it's fine.
What are you thinking, John? You've got something going through your head.
The last time I flew in one of those small planes, it was the gnarliest turbulence, and they're serving drinks, and they forgot to go on their aisle, so they were like, "Oh, if you guys want anything, like any liquor, it'll be free." So I was like, "Sick, yeah, give me a Bloody Mary, like make it a double." And I was taking like a big swig of that, and we hit like 100-foot drop or something, and I was just like, not the time to get the free drink service, but
Especially
yeah.
the neon red one.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, it's gonna be really bumpy.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, totally. A cup full of tomato juice.
It wasn't a bad one. It was quality, but just bad time to drink it. And then, yeah, the fear in people when there is turbulence. I definitely looked like that one time because I had a gnarly stomach ache. Like they turned off the bathroom sign just like a minute too soon for me, and by 20 minutes later, I was just dying. Like, I need to go right now. And I just had my head against the seat, just like breathing and like probably sweating a little. And I was like, dude, someone's probably looking at me right now, just like, this guy's so fucking scared, like landing in this plane. And I was just like going through it. But yeah, no, those planes are so big. If you've flown on a small plane, it's no big deal in a big one.
Yeah.
But most people do.
I don't know if you can put it in afterwards for this.
I can do anything.
Well, it's just I saw, I'll have to find it. It was like some random Instagram account Austin sent to me today, and it was like somebody walking down a plane after they had like had one of those like free fall situations, and like a bunch of people are messed up because like a lot of people I guess don't wear their seatbelts when they fly, and so everybody just flies to the top and like hits their head. Dude, it was like every other person had like something on their head, like all bloody. Like it was carnage, absolute carnage. There's like food everywhere, and I was like, I shouldn't be watching this.
That's a wake up call. Yeah.
I was like, next time is what's gonna happen.
Mass KO, just everyone at once. Just,
Well, it's just a box full of people like that, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tangents.
That's why I drove here.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. What
Yeah, because cars are so safe.
they'll text and drive, but the plane on autopilot,
Much less
no
variables.
go.
Yeah.
I had a tailwind the whole way. It was the best gas mileage I've ever had, so it was worth it.
Congratulations.
That's a win.
What about the new Pivot? The downhill prototype bike.
Like
Mountain biking.
Does it fly or?
I don't know. Does it get through turbulence pretty well?
So for those of us who are listening and aren't aware of the new Pivot bike,
Nerds.
yeah. So it's in the Vital Nerd forums, which I check anytime I'm trying to get work done, pretty frequently. And it's the new Dave Weigel patent, it looks like, which is not a high pivot, but it's a like jack shaft chain arrangement.
Yeah, I'll put a picture of it. But yeah, there's a patent that someone found, like a photo of the patent, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up in there.
Yeah.
You'll just find things and you're just like, what am I here for? Like, why am I trying to contribute to this? You guys have too much time to find things.
Mm-hmm.
No way, they're the best.
No, they are the
best
best, but that's
Well,
what,
it's
like as far as trying to compete with them, it's just not even close.
I went
Like,
to page 78 of the patent application,
Yeah.
then followed a footnote and found.
Yeah, how'd you guys not see that?
Totally.
I've never even been on that website. Like,
Yeah. But basically, the pitch is it moves the chain situation around so that he can pack stuff in tighter for e-bikes. Right? That's what Uncle Dave says. Is it's tighter packaging for e-bikes is the main benefit.
Okay.
Yeah, because like you're fighting chain ring and chainstay and tire space, like in a modern full suspension bike that's already really crowded, and then it's like super ultra crowded when you stuff a motor in there. So he's trying to just get the chain out of that area so that you don't have any like chainstay yoke engineering problems, and you don't have to worry about the chain line around the chainstay. So anyway, it like runs the chain vertically, and that's what we're looking at with that new pivot design. It's kind of ambiguous whether it has a motor in there or not, or if it's because it looks like a trail bike with a downhill fork on it, like a dual crown.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows?
I just now was looking at it. There's
You
a
haven't
lot
seen this?
going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it looked like it was a jack shaft or something, right? Like
Very
so
Brooklyn
old
Machine
Superco
Works.
or Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. But it's on a different side. So the jack shaft on those was on the non-drive.
Yeah.
And so Uncle Dave has it all on like the drive side, which is apparently
Dave knows
different
what's going
enough
Yeah.
to be a patent.
There's a sideways one.
Yeah.
You guys looking at it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. It looks
Yeah,
like
I'm out
a
of comments.
higher pivot.
Doesn't it look like there's a motor in there?
Yeah, that was my first thought. I was like, is that a gearbox or? But you can see it goes down to a derailleur or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think your e-bike comments there's probably some truth to that.
Yeah.
Or it looks like the most logical reason
Uh-huh.
to
That'd be
just better
sick if it
package
was
a
an
motor.
e-bike. They're just like, yeah, go rip this thing.
I know. Is it
It's not a
the
race bike, but you can just ride this for fun.
mm-hmm.
Shuttle yourself.
So it's funny.
on a lift?
So obviously I'm in the nerd forum a lot, and like if you scroll down a couple comments, there's me saying like, oh, it's really cool that it's a small chainring, because I was just on a ride where I hit my chain guide 4 times. And then earlier today, was it Johnny who pointed out that I actually broke my chain guide?
Oh, I think it was me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, what's up with this custom weird bash guard you have? You're like, oh, there should be more pieces there.
Yeah. So yeah,
Disintegrating.
I'll take some more ground clearance on that chain ring all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting.
Cheers that.
Cheers. I'm pretty sure I just bent that key too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was not a brass key. That was like an alloy key.
Sorry, Prius. Not coming home.
Aluminium.
Yep.
Aluminium.
And then there's also beef. So if we can go back to that picture, the question is, are those carbon tubes in aluminum lugs, or did they just slap a black plastic wrap over the top tube and down tube? Some things to draw your attention to. There's a bend in the down tube.
I think that the dude who posted the photo also commented prior something about like, I saw a new pivot bike today. It looked like lugs. I thought that's how like that sequence went. And then
When
he
the
took
photo
a
came
photo.
later.
Yeah. And then, Pivot's already sending him emails as we speak.
He went back the next day focused.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm getting that picture.
Yeah, he's actually not in the gondola line in this. He is hiding off to the side
Yeah.
to get this photo.
Just casually riding with the telephoto lens. Oh, what are you guys doing here?
The mono tripod.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm like legally allowed to mention this right now, so you can edit it out, but you just have to mention the Grim Donut when you're talking about
We'll edit that out.
trail bike looking pivot with the dual crown on it. It's like, it's exactly the same suspension design as that new pivot made Grim Donut thing, right? It looks exactly the same. Like it has a short trail shock on there, but a 200 mil fork and all that stuff.
I don't know. It looks like a big shock.
You think that's a big shock?
That's a long coil. We can count the rings if we really want to nerd out. But I think that's full size shock.
You think that's
Yeah.
okay?
What do you think about that idea? Crowdsourced, forum built mountain bike. Bad idea?
Have you ever heard the one about a horse built by committee? It's a camel. It's just really ugly, like everything's out of proportion and it looks terrible.
What?
I had not.
Yeah, you haven't heard that? No, okay.
So is that your take on it?
Oh, for sure. It's a terrible idea. Yeah. Well, it's like, do you remember the Simpsons episode where Homer designs his own car?
Yeah, it was
Like-
awesome.
Yeah. Customers have no idea what they want. Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, what's Atherton have? Like 20 sizes or something?
No, like, hold up. Here's a quick test. How many pairs of pants have you owned in your lifetime? Right? An uncountable number. If I asked you to like make some pants right now,
How would it go?
right? Like, okay, here's some fabric. Just start sketching out panels and just make your dream set of pants, right? Like make the best pants you've ever had. Just cut out the middleman and just make your favorite pants. It'd be a disaster. You would look like crisscross, right?
Ridiculous.
Maybe.
What if that's my dream pair of pants?
Maybe that is.
I love this analogy.
Because you know what
You've thought of this prior.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know what the end experience is that you want, but you don't know how to get there. Right?
Yeah.
That is a really good point.
Yeah. You can point out what sucks. That's the level of like the average customer. And even that, it's like most of the time, like, oh, well, your fork's too soft. Right?
Well, you can point out what sucks. It's figuring out how to make it better, know what you want.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And
It's not doing this. It's like, okay, we'll change something then. And people are like, well,
I don't know.
I need a new bike.
Yeah. No, do it for me.
You need more dampening. Depampening.
Yeah, spray with the bottle. Use a spray bottle.
Get it
Do
wet.
damper.
we're all adequately dampened at this point, right? I have like 3 forms of dampening right now. I don't know if you can see that, but
It's a lot of dampening.
a lot of dampening.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we see that bike pop up like once World Cup start. There's still a lot of time between now and then, or if it's just this weird thing that's floating around. Who knows? It's interesting.
Yeah, the last one popped up at Fort William. I remember Ed Masters on the first 29-inch one, the aluminum one. But this seems cool because they can kind of dial it in a little more without just using an aluminum frame and then trying to go straight to carbon.
Yeah. No, there's a lot going on there.
And
I'm just impressed brands are still developing downhill bikes, to be honest.
Right?
It's fascinating to me.
Like, how many downhill bikes do you think Pivot has sold in the last year? Right? Like 10?
Yeah, and I mean, and it's like not even focused directly on Pivot. Just any brand that has a downhill bike. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
yeah.
And I mean,
Why do you think they do it?
it seems like the easiest avenue to develop designs because if you have a World Cup team like they do, you have a platform, it gets people like us talking about it, and it's out there. And I don't know, like,
Well, it's the same
just hype
question as
around
like,
it.
why would you design an F1 car? You're not going to sell those.
Yeah, but that also doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't follow F1.
Pretty similar.
So just the trickle down technology.
Like most people don't need that.
Like if you can
Yeah,
prove it at that
yeah, but you
level.
can't go buy an F1 car. You go buy a downhill
Yeah,
bike.
true.
And I think Tanner, we probably should have Tanner talk about this, but because I'm stealing his idea right now. But Tanner was like, I hate that analogy that F1 downhill and F1, and I was like, I'm kind of on board with that. And the whole point being like, why are we making this like the sport seem like it's an unattainable thing? But that's like that's a side thing. But
I think the common factor is irrelevant for most people. Most people are not going to look at a downhill bike.
no, I agree.
But like a race team that wants to support riders would be like, okay, what's the downhill bike we could put riders on? Just like, maybe not an F1 car, but a company that makes engines can sell those to F1 teams. So
Yeah, it's an interesting
not a direct
one.
comparison, but
I mean, and I get
similarities.
it if they're gonna use that whatever they're learning from this thing and apply it to the bikes that are more like prominent in their line.
Yeah.
That people are buying and using the most.
Aspirational customers. Aspirational customers, right? Like, oh, I don't have a downhill bike, but, I want to get better at XYZ. And that sort of aligns with this idea of like extreme on the edge downhill racing. So I now associate positively with this brand.
Or you have a trail lift where you live. And you're like, why would I compromise and have a trail bike when I can just make everything happen in slow motion on a downhill bike?
Or you love Bernard Kerr and anything he rides or he's wearing, you're like, I'm into that.
Yeah.
We need 1% of that,
Okay, there's another theory that you guys haven't brought up, which is you guys have ridden e-bikes at this point, right? And how completely wildly sick the front tire traction is, right? How it just carries speed over rough stuff. What if they're just going to race, like take the motor out and just make it just super heavy? So they're going to make a downhill bike that's an e-bike and then just make it weigh 57 pounds.
Well, weren't some people putting weights on their bike? Like I know
Jack Reading is the first person I saw, I think.
Yeah, and Laurie Greenland, we did the Vital Raw with him, like when he was first announced. He had a weight taped to the bottom of his V10.
So just cut out the middleman and just go like 57 pounds, right? Just
That would be the coolest thing ever because I don't know why we're not seeing downhill bikes spec'd with like Triple Crown forks on them. Like we're
E-bikes?
not.
You mean e-bikes?
Sorry,
Yeah.
e-bikes. Like we're not caught up on the weight of them or getting up the hill. And there's so many, like you're talking about, like so many awesome characteristics due to the weight. I'm like, just give me the biggest fork on the front, and I can just run over I can run into curbs all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be sick. That would be tight. They're just like, we're going to go and develop our new e-bike. It comes with the downhill fork on it, and it's what our guys are racing at the World Cup. World Cup proven e-bike.
Yeah. Take the motor out, race the World Cup, throw it back in, just ride whatever you want.
Leave the motor in and just replace the battery with just lead. Just a big lead tube.
The Kenevo, there's a model with a
I was
boxer
going
on
to
it.
say, yeah, like the regular Kenevo.
There was, like, for a while, yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like they sold a lot of those too. I've seen a lot of those on the trail.
totally.
But then they stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird. I mean, it's like, sure, one Specialized did it once. Why isn't everybody doing it? I don't know.
It's like the Suron Light.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I think it's
Diet-
the ultimate form of an e-bike.
Diet Suron.
Yeah.
Die
Surround the
Suron.
light.
Yeah.
Is spoke tension a real thing?
You're doing it, huh?
What do you mean? Are they not tight?
Can you feel
Not for long.
can you feel different spoke tension? Will that impact performance on your bike?
Yeah.
Of course.
And I only ask this because after we were riding back to the car, Charlie's talking about it and saying there's some people on some forum somewhere that's saying like it doesn't matter what your spoke tension is because of X, Y, and Z. You can explain what they're saying, but I'm just like, come on.
Don't
spoke
yell too
tension.
loud.
Yeah. So if I can summarize the nerd battle that's going on, there's a pretty rich one in the forums and comment sections about spoke tension, and the argument goes something like this. Your weight is being suspended by the top spokes, right? Because they're under tension, and you're essentially hanging from them with your hub, and the bottom spokes aren't contributing anything to wheel stiffness because they're really not, like,
Is that true?
You're pushing a spaghetti noodle,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So it's actually just the structural strength of the rim that's holding your weight up, like when you run into things. And what's preventing you from blowing through the wheel is the spoke tension. So anyway, what they're saying is that essentially changing spoke tension won't noticeably affect the top of the wheel because the difference between being really tight and really, really tight on the top. So the bottom is unaffected. So that's the claim. And they're saying like, oh, well, definitely it doesn't make any difference.
Who's making this claim?
Like, I'm an engineer nerds in the comments.
And they're so upset with the current ride quality of their bicycle that this is definitely what's keeping them from enjoying
This
their.
is what it's come to.
No, it's not that. It's like
It's just who's right.
whenever people are talking about carbon wheels versus aluminum wheels,
I did that once.
yeah, right? Or they're talking about
familiar.
28 spokes versus 32 spokes, and someone says something about how, oh, well, with 32 spokes, it's like lower average tension or whatever. Then someone pops in and says, oh, well, spoke tension doesn't matter. Like that
If
myth has
you're
been debunked.
Only on like a spin bike, maybe, but like trails aren't just straight forever.
Exactly.
Factors are going to come into play pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
What about leaning over and all? There's just I don't know.
That's where the theory goes out the window and the wheel's going to fold in half. If you follow that theory, just like lace it up and don't tension it.
What do you
you'll be
think?
fine.
Yeah, that just can't be right. Right. And like what we were talking about is that's essentially like a first year engineering student drawing a free body diagram. And they're like, here's the arrow for gravity. And like the hub is and you're like, yeah, but there's
An infinite
amount of
factors.
additional forces.
Yeah.
Right. Like every rock and root.
Read
and
the
like,
rest of the chapter.
Yeah, and you know, another one is disc brakes have really messed with wheels because they're tugging at the spokes in all these weird ways.
Yeah.
Like when you used to have, so like a radially laced wheel is actually a lot stronger just in terms of impact than and it's stiffer than a crossed wheel. But you can't run a radially laced wheel if you're running disc brakes because
The twist.
yeah, right. They're doing totally different things. So anyway, there's like 17,000 different forces acting on your wheel.
Yeah.
Wheels have just a terrible job.
It's impressive what they do. Generally, these days, I'm stoked on wheel performance.
Yeah. Have you seen any of the like Jack Moore Instagram like horrible wheel bending?
Sick.
Yeah, right.
It's way sick.
Where he's clearly off the brakes, just like chattering over stuff while sliding, and his whole rear end is just like
Yeah.
Just drawing S's down the track. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something someone in that forum would use as evidence. Like, see how loose it is? Like, that is not what is happening there.
Yeah.
No, that's called shredding.
Yeah.
That's what's happening there.
That's a guy that's 6'4", giving 0 fucks. Like,
Do you think he even notices that there's flex happening in that moment, or is he just like, it feels sick?
yeah, it feels mid. Just
Yeah, right.
no, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
The guy seems pretty dialed in, but like, yeah.
But like all the way back to Nico, there have been like Nico Vujo, there have been World Cup guys tuning. Like I heard Schladming was a track where you run really loose spoke tension because there's a lot of like side hilling and
Off-camber.
roots and off camber.
Laurie Greenland, has talked about it too, running thinner gauge spokes and
Yeah.
lower tensions because, you get away with it.
Yeah. But like Mount St. Anne, you're just smashing holes really hard. So you run more spoke tension. Yeah.
I never made it to that point. I never made it to the I'm going to mess with spoke tension level of racing.
Yeah. We were in the please, for the love of all that's holy, can I just make it to the bottom with spoke tension
Yeah.
and air in the tires? Yeah.
I was like, how much more JB Weld is too much JB Weld?
To keep the spokes together?
No, it was for like the rims at the time I was running were, what do you call it? The seam where they're like the...
Welded?
Like they're jointed or
yeah, I
welded
guess,
or
yeah, like
whatever?
weld or whatever. But like it would just start to split basically, then it wouldn't hold air. So I would JB weld them when they were brand new, and then like a couple races in, if they made it that far.
Wait, I'm sorry. What are we JB welding?
That's the seam.
Seam in the
Seam
rim.
of the rim.
For
mainly
tubeless.
Yeah, tubeless.
So it'll hold air.
Yeah, it wasn't. We're getting away from spokes, but like straight up for tight, like how tight they were. As long as they were just tight, there wasn't like a how tight. It was mainly like just that they weren't like rattling loose.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'd try to like true a hop out of a wheel, but I was like, the hop in my wheel is not gonna like make me as fast as Loic through this section. There's so many. There's just
way too high.
it started years ago. Why I'm not gonna be as fast this weekend as Loic Murray.
It's a generational issue.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're definitely the same generation, but yeah. No, I remember going through, speaking of him, going through Specialized's truck at Andorra, I think, and in their workshop area, they had all these wheels like ready to go, and they had like, and they all were already done up with tires. So they had like their mud tires, their dries, like a different set of tires on dries, and then but they were all like, oh, well, this is like certain tension of mud tires, a different tension of mud tires, and then like and then
Tension in the spokes.
in the spokes, and then they had like
really?
28 hole wheels, 32 hole wheels, and like or spoke wheels, and it was another time where I was like, I have one spare wheel.
Yeah.
One. No, it doesn't even matter how many spokes, as long as it has all the spokes it's supposed to have. That's
And
what
some
matters.
JB Weld.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, and like, I don't know what they do now, but back then they were like siliconing their tires on.
Yeah.
Just crazy stuff. Like once a tire was done, like tire rim was all one unit. If one was done, the other one was done. There was no like peeling a tire off a rim.
Just cut all the spokes off and start over.
Which, just to be clear, when he says silicone, we're talking about literally permanently gluing and bonding your tire to your rim. Yeah. Which is sick because you're never going to burp that guy, right?
No.
You can run whatever tire pressure you want. Yeah. I always thought the most baller thing when you were at a race was when you were at like a big race and someone was just rolling down on a flat tire, right? Because you're somewhere across the world and you're like, oh my goodness, I hope I can keep my bike together. And someone's just like, da-dung, dung, da-dung, da-dung, dung, dung, da-dung, dung. Because they have just a pile of wheels back at the pit, right?
Yeah. They're
It's
trying
like-
not to waste time during practice. They're like, I got to get back there.
Yeah, I just got to get this piece of crap off my bike, right?
Half the time they're like upset because they're like, I've already flatted this morning, and they're just like
Must be
purposely
nice.
jumping into things. Dude, I'm like, I would be carrying my bike down.
Yeah.
Well, and truthfully, they're still getting a practice run, right? Like if they're railing and jumping stuff, they're actually learning the track, and I'm just
It's gonna be
walking
easy
my
once
bike
they have
down.
a tire
Yeah,
there in it.
I'm just walking my bike down, just counting the minutes I'm
Yeah.
losing, right?
I'm riding the warranty down.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Baller.
Yeah.
So the smartest thing I ever heard about this topic, and I don't remember who told me, but on the topic of spoke tension, they said, have you ever had a wheel come loose while you're riding? I said, yeah, totally. And they said, it feels better and better and better right up until the moment that it feels terrible. Right? Like it has more grip.
Just tracking everywhere.
Yeah, totally. It carries speed. Unless you're like really wound up in a really rough, tight turn or something. And I think that's true. Where it's like absorbing a lot of extra stuff and tracking. And then at a certain point, it's wildly unrideable and dangerous. But yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder more about Jack Moyer's spoke tension because, like in an enduro application, be more comfortable to ride all day on looser spokes if you can get away with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Food for thought.
Yeah, something to think about.
We
got to get in that forum.
Yeah.
Do you have a list over there?
No, actually,
Or is that to take notes?
That's a great question. So here's the list of questions that we're going off of right now. So yeah, we came really prepared. We're going to try and get through all of these, but we only have so much time. So there we go.
And we posted on Instagram Charlie's picture to see if anyone would ask any questions. We have exactly no comments yet.
Boom.
So
Okay. There we go. There we go.
And that just shows you the power of social media.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's see. We only covered like 20 topics at dinner before this.
Okay. On the flip side of all this nerdery and Loic having wheel builds with different tensions and being so prepared, Mikey Silvestri came up. And him getting second to Gwyn at National Champs in 2015.
Yeah.
By 3 seconds. And Charlie claimed that he had absolutely no idea about bike setup, but he's still doing just fine. And I know, with a grain of salt, but
I just want to say, hey, Mikey, if you're out there, I really respect your bike setup, and I think you're a really high-quality racer. But, yeah, I think you could probably fill his fork with water, and he would probably just happily ride that bike and beat all of us at the table.
It's insane.
Yeah. You're like, I felt a little, whatever, and just...
Yeah.
so what, reconcile it. Like, how is he so good without digging into spoke tension and wheels and so much technical prep? He just goes destroys. Like, what's the secret, Peter?
Natural ability.
Yeah, I feel like that stuff comes from other people that watch you and go like, hey, like your bike would work better if you tried this or this. But if you don't think about it and you just have the raw talent, it's like, who cares? Like the bike feels how I think it should, and you can just go and do it. And I think, yeah, Mikey probably does that better than a lot of people. But also glad you're still in one piece, Mikey. Glad you're walking again.
I heard about that.
Had a gnarly crash with got hit by a car or something on his motorcycle. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's like a whole group of racers like him I can think of over the years that I would be so focused on different things than they were on a given weekend. Like setup or lines or tire choice. And you'd like bump into someone like that, and what they were thinking about would just be so different. Like they're like, oh, track's super sick or whatever. Like the last jump's cool, or like, I don't know, I did a few runs. Like Mikey's probably like playing with his RC crawlers or whatever, you know?
Always.
Or literally middle of practice and we're dorking out about spoke tension and they're like, oh my goodness, dude, have you seen this music video? This guy totally like takes a dump on screen.
Exactly.
And then that guy's way faster than you.
Yeah, and it just I had a few friends like that I raced with where I just got to that point where I wasn't going to be there. I was like, I need to take what they have and then apply it with like how serious I'm taking this. And then there's like the next level you make it to. You just need to step back, but like, it's crazy. Some people, the way they look at terrain and analyze things is just different. And like, it just comes to people more naturally.
Totally. And I think it's a lot off of just like feeling like, oh, I'm having so much fun on my bike. And like, it's just like, the speed they're carrying almost makes them look at it differently to where it's like, oh, it is easy. You just skipped all the gnarliest section because you just floated right over it. You're not like thinking about having to dodge anything. You're like, oh, I'm just having so much fun. And that's like when you usually go fast. And
dude,
I imagine if you're that good, you have a lot of fun on a lot of stuff.
It does look great.
It looks really fun. But yeah, seeing him coming in the chute that year at the end of the race was terrifying.
The one at Mammoth?
Yeah, it was like the littlest rat at the bottom full of rocks. And I was just like, see what happens when he gets there. He hasn't touched the brakes much at all. So, yeah, that was one of the most impressive things I've seen on a bike.
That was sweet. the rider's hero. It was all of our heroes that weekend.
Yeah.
Do you think that approach is possible at the top end of the World Cup? Like, let's say, I don't know, top 10. Can you be that kind of disconnected?
Probably not anymore.
Yeah.
It's just insane watching it now. It does not look fun.
Do you think someone like Jackson is loose like that, or is there prep that we don't know about and just kind of focus that we don't know about? He looks like he's having fun.
Yeah.
I think that might be, I don't know. He's maybe the closest to that, but I think his personality is just like that.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's super serious and cares a ton about racing, but he's just like a young kid who's carefree and kind of living for it sort of vibe. But I don't know. Like, there was like the Van Zacks for a number of years, and then some of them kind of became pro racers or just kind of fizzled out, or I don't know. I mean, I think of like Bryson, but I feel like Bryson was always like a closet trainer. Like he like always was way more prepared, and he might be more like somebody like a Mikey who like his just natural ability to just analyze sections of trail and go fast was really crazy. But he matched that with like being like coached and groomed by like Petey over the years on like how to race, and then like, you know, the pressure of like, I can actually win some stuff. Like, I'm going to put energy into this.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about training, right? Like,
I think it's just one component of it.
Yeah, because preparation is one thing. Like, are you physically prepared and have you done the homework to be ready? We're talking about like, what are you thinking about on the weekend? Like, what's the problem you're trying to solve?
I think of both when it gets to like World Cup stuff, because part of that problem would be like, I guess it's probably mental strength is it's like, that's like 70% in my mind and 30% like the physical. I think anybody can like put in the effort and acquire that, the physical side of it. But then like, I mean, maybe it's like a Bryson's like an example. I feel like he was sort of that like carefree, like watch this music video during practice. And then it in like a few years changed much more to it. He still had that same vibe, but I'm like, you know, he's doing like suspension testing in the off season. You know, that he's like working with Santa Cruz to make sure the bike's perfect for him. And like, he also is doing the training probably more than he ever did. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's like all those things sort of coming together. I can't think of anybody who just like nowadays just shows up at a World Cup and is just like naturally gifted. And that's kind of like, they're just carefree about it. They're like, I might as well be here because I'm good. Like, I don't think they're qualifying anymore.
But I think what we're talking about is like shutting off the part of your brain that's like on loop trying to solve every little puzzle. Like,
No.
Lucas Shaw is sort of infamous for not changing his suspension setup. He just runs basically the same bike setup at every race. And that's super interesting because most of these guys are doing so much like, oh, I need to change one knob or
They're
something.
puzzling.
But I feel like that's
Yeah.
also not much. Like, if you're like, take Greg, for example, I'm sure Greg's like week to week settings are very close.
Yeah.
I can't imagine he's like changing pressure by more than like 2 or 3 psi and clicks like 2 to 3. Like, it's puzzling, but it's at the end of the day, like, would he have been like, it's all mental for him, I think. Like, would he have been better off from just doing Luca's method of just showing up with what you got and you run that all the time and you know it and just making it work? I don't know. It's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like the philosophy, like you were just saying, just like, oh, I'm gonna have so much fun. And like, I'm gonna look at this video of this, and it's like talking about training and stuff. I think to them, it's like, yeah, riding my bike is fun, and like going as fast as I can is fun, and like I'm always having fun. Like, you're gonna get in pretty good shape going that fast, like all the time. And I think that takes a lot of thinking out of it because you're like, oh, it's just another day riding my bike, but there's a lot of people here now. And did you see this new music video? It's like, it's just like, it's another day, another music video. They're not thinking about anything else. And and then like the setup stuff, like how little it actually varies when they change it. It's like, that's the full spectrum you would use anyways, like 3 to 5 clicks. And they're just exploring the whole spectrum, not like, oh, I went 15 clicks this way. Like, that's never a good idea, I don't think. But who knows?
Did you listen to Spomer's interview with Manar when he talks about like, so tell me about speed and like how do you step it up when you need to go a little faster? And he's like, I mean, it's not that complicated. You just don't hit the brakes as much. Like, you just go faster.
Yeah, it's literally the only answer he had. I'm like, okay, it's kind of gnarly though. Like, how fast you're going. I mean, like, you got to go faster. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the biggest puzzler in the world, right? He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, you just go faster.
Yeah.
That's the least helpful advice ever.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, talking about settings not making, or just like they only go like 1 or 2 clicks different. In the Grice podcast that I did the other day, he was working with Owens, and they said they changed his bike. They didn't tell him what he did, and he got down. And he's like, "That's so much better. It's awesome. What'd you do?" And it was 1 click of rebound. I don't know if it was faster or slower.
Those are big
but it was
clicks,
1
though.
click, and he said that, yeah. But it's like, does that stuff? You guys can feel that 1 click.
Yeah.
I think some people can, and
I
I
guess
think
at that
a lot
level.
of people, like, placebo effect hits a little bit of that, and then, I mean, I guess it depends who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, depending on like the level you're at or what you're trying to get out of stuff. But I personally never changed anything racing at all. I messed with tire pressure, and then I just I lived in Southern California, and I did all of my testing and training in Southern California, which related to basically Andorra, like nowhere else. And Andorra was steep, so it was just the dirt. It was kind of similar. So like I would sort of went with the idea of like, I'm just gonna ride what I know and it's safe. And if I heard something on the weekend that I was like, I trust this person and like the intel I'm getting, like, okay, I'll try to raise my bars or maybe I'll go up in pressure, but like, I don't know. Like, but and it depends. And like, this is like racing looking at it. I think it's different if I'm like just gonna set up like a new bike or something and go for and be like my daily driver sort of vibe. But
So why did you change your tire pressure? You said that's the one thing you tuned. So when were you tuning tire pressure?
usually due to moisture, like how wet.
Okay.
Because I basically only raced Magic Mary tires because they worked like, you know, when you're flying to Europe or all over the US and stuff, it's like one tire that works in pretty much everything, which is
So
a good tire.
wetter, softer.
Yeah, generally. And like, yeah, I'm probably a bad case study because I don't really like, I just kind of set up bikes and they feel pretty good. And I'm like, it's fun. Like I'm never trying to ride so high at like a level or like the Greg, like, how do you go faster? I'm like, never trying to go faster. Always cool with where I'm at. And so like, usually it's like, oh, how do you go faster? He's left the brakes to go faster. Like that's where I'm at. I'm like, it's not the bike that needs to change. Like maybe, I don't know. Like it's as long as I kind of have like where I set stuff and it feels pretty okay there. Yeah. Maybe temperature a little bit. I'll mess with rebound nowadays.
That's kind of a little if it's cold.
Yeah. Like that's actually probably the one thing. And usually if it's hot, I'll slow it down. I notice that more.
Yeah.
I don't really mind if it's too slow and it's cold because I probably can't feel my hands and I'm already over it anyways. Like I don't like making my rebound faster is not gonna make my hands warm and have more fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very much the same way, just like set and forget for a long time until I moved somewhere completely different. So like grew up in Northern California and have a lot of like loamy trails where you can basically do no wrong. So bike setup's really not that important. And then moving to Arizona, I was like, wow, this feels horrible. It's like so stiff and just like bouncing off stuff. And yeah, I had to soften it up a lot and like rely more on damping than just like solid air pressure all the time because suddenly there's no grip and no like turns. It's just all rocks. And then I come back here and I'm like shitting myself because I'm like, wow, we're going really fast into like a berm right now with braking bumps. Like it's just like really deep in the travel. And then yeah, like the last couple of days I have been messing with it a lot because I'm just like, we got to figure something out. This is not how this worked at home. So
We're in the Laguna area right now for reference. So
yeah. Not Phoenix.
Blowing up the spot.
oh yeah, they're Laguna, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Colorado.
Yeah.
Robot wrote something down.
I wrote that
I
down.
saw it. I heard the word, and I'm like, oh, let's bring that one up.
We're gonna
I
revisit this
disagree.
word in just a second.
Oh, and I'm talking about like by definition, not like just wet dirt.
Uh-huh.
Like we can pull up the soil composition chart.
But that's what I was gonna
break
pull
down
up.
what
I was
that
bringing
word
up.
means.
I was
I'll pull
bringing
it
up the soil triangle. You bring up the triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I almost feel like I know what it is. It's
For
like
all you
equal
people
parts.
in Laguna, New Hampshire.
Oh, say it. Equal parts what? Just
I just
not
remember
equal.
sand.
make me the happiest man in the world.
I just remember sand because it doesn't feel like it should be in the list to me.
It
Oh,
feels
but
like
you
it
see,
shouldn't
there's varieties. You got sandy clay loam, sandy loam, but then you get to this
would've
nice
said
spot in the
clay.
middle here.
which is an equal mix of sand, silt, and clay, which are the three components of loam.
It's
by the way.
not though. It's
What is
between
loam?
40 to 60% sand, 10 to 30% clay, and between 70 and 90% silt. So
what we're looking at,
clay loam looks like it's dead in the middle.
So really,
clay.
That is my favorite type of loam.
so a classic loam is a little bit less clay rich, so it drains better.
Yeah, we're only seeing up to 30%
Okay.
in that composition, but you're getting a way higher percentage of the silt, and that's where, kind of crumbles apart.
Yeah,
And then the sand, pretty important. It's nearly half of the percentage.
definitely.
And
It's a sneaky ingredient
if those aren't all in check, you're just lying to yourself. That's just wet dirt. That's not loam.
for sure.
So for all you Laguna, New Hampshire folks, find this.
So the key
Educate
here,
yourself.
you brought it up. I was gonna circle back on this. We're still in suspension settings, right? We're gonna get back to suspension settings.
I just feel obligated as like a Team NorCal representative to come down here and spread the knowledge.
Yeah,
Spread the good word.
You're gonna show that.
Yeah, make sure I get that and we'll put it on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm not on Team NorCal. I'm just the representative that they sent down here for this.
Think of all the YouTube channels, Instagram things that if loam isn't the rich black dirt we saw in like the collective,
Yeah.
everyone's host. Come on.
Yeah. No, like my favorite loamer is Dirt Merchant. It's just loam from top to bottom. It's so
By
much
definition.
loam. Yes, it's the most loam I've ever seen moved on a trail.
I'm going to call that a sandy loam based on this chart. So just touch on that. So that's, 20 to 35% clay. Let's say, sandy clay loam, sorry.
You think Dirt Merchant's more of a sandy clay loam?
I think it's more of a sandy clay loam.
Yeah.
Packs pretty hard, so
It does pack good, huh?
yeah. Not that true loam won't eventually, but
But it drains, right? Like I
That's the
think
thing.
the Whistler dirt, it has a relatively low clay content because Southern California has a lot of clay, and it just like gets so gross when it rains.
so maybe you're right. Maybe we're looking at clay loam. Or no, not clay loam. Silty clay loam.
Yeah. So anyway, my suspension settings when I was racing. Yeah, that's a good question. We heard from Jason. Actually, and Spomer, you're not getting out of this either. So we want to hear your impressions on suspension setup and tuning.
Okay.
But
What does it say about air pressure and rider weight? I'm like, okay, cool. Rebounds a
Seems
little on the
legit.
fast side. All right, sweet. I don't know. Cully said he liked fast rebound like 30 years ago. It's got to still be a good idea, right?
that's where you're at, a
doing
little
that.
bit fast.
Uh-huh.
I think that's
Wow.
good.
On the front or the
I am.
rear?
Yeah.
More
Yes.
on the front probably.
Yeah,
but
yeah, same.
But does it help me ride better? No.
Yeah.
My problem is not
It's spoke
the
tension.
bike setup. It's the spoke
Yeah.
tension for sure.
Yeah.
Although we could make you ride worse with bike setup,
Doubtful. But okay.
right?
Well, I rode, what did we ride yesterday? 5 Oaks with the lockout still on. I was like, man, this is rough. Oh,
Yeah.
The lockout's still on. So can just get rid of things and simplify my bike and I'll ride even better.
But if we had like one of your brake levers pull to the bar and the other one pull like super far out, and then
And it's not the one you're hoping.
yeah, totally, and then lock out your fork and make your shock really soft, or the opposite. We can make it worse.
I'm sure you can, but every time I ask, high level riders about, I ask them like, okay, what would you, if we messed with bar width, tire pressure, or like lever position? Almost all of them said lever position.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
blew me away because I try to get it close, but I don't think I noticed that stuff at all. Do you?
That means it's fine if you don't notice it. But when
Yeah.
it's off, it's like blatantly wrong and it drives me nuts.
But see, that's weird. Like maybe I've just never had it off enough to notice, but I'm like, oh, my position's so off. I can't ride this bike. And you guys seem like you're always like, hold on, let's stop. I got to fix something. And
Yeah.
why?
So this gets to what I was going to say, which is what I've concluded, because I respect you guys for not tweaking out about suspension setup and having just either the mental fortitude or just stupidity to just like not think about it. It's one or the other. I don't know which one it is, and both work, right? Like if you're just dumb or if you are able to block that out and think through it. But I was just totally tweaking out about that for the longest time when I was racing. And then one season I was riding like the most beat up, horrible bike in between seasons. Like I was waiting for all my March stuff to show up, and it was January and February, and I had like old tires and other people's old tires, by the way, and like a tube up front, and my shock was blown out, and my rear brake would like pull to the bar, and it was a felt So like wasn't a good start.
We'll just throw it
I was
out
going
there.
to say, tell us about
No,
that.
exactly.
Yeah, and I rode with the same people at like exactly the same speed. It was a trip up in Bellingham, and I always thought I was terrible at riding in Bellingham, but I was like, I'm just gonna try and follow these people, and I rode great. And I realized, oh, this is all stupid. Like none of this matters at all. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't feeling a difference before, right? And I think that's the difference is you can feel so many things. And the better you get at riding, the more you can feel. Because what you're literally developing is a feel for the ground through a mechanical object, right? Like you can literally go for walks on a trail and you can like imagine what it feels like on those dirt conditions on tires,
Yeah.
right? You're like,
More
oh,
so than, yeah.
that would hook up so sick right there. Like you're riding your bike in your brain through a imaginary bicycle, right? So you become really attuned to feeling things. And what that means is that you can feel more things than matter, right? Like, and you can feel a difference between settings, but that doesn't actually mean that it matters for your performance. And it only matters to your performance to the extent that you think it does. So like if Chris Grice, you turn one knob one way and he's like, oh my gosh, it feels better. You're like, now watch this. And then you turn it the wrong way, right? He's like potentially mentally broken. He's like, I feel how horrible. Everything's terrible. Right. And it's like, it's almost exactly the same speed.
Yeah, but it's like that's where you were before.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like you were doing fine up until we changed it.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's true of Chris Grice. I don't know. He might just be like, oh, well, okay, I'll do my best.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, like you can just feel so much and you can just really ruin your race in your own brain.
And all of that to say like that I don't mess with it too much to say that I don't think it's valid or I could make a more comfortable ride. I just feel like at my level, it's not that stuff that's holding me
negligible.
back. You know,
Yeah.
like it's fun to mess with, and I think that's why mountain bikes are cool. But the one thing I did do was on that Orbea, I put my bars and stem on the bike instead of the stock ones because I didn't want to mess with them. Like this is the one thing I'm going to carry over from my bike at home, so I put that on. I feel like that helps it makes it feel more at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now you're in a really tricky spot because now the question is, what are you going to choose to care about? Right. And now you're filtering through the things that you feel from feedback from your bike. You're like, well, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm not going to worry about that, but I am going to worry about this. And that's like a whole nother level of tweaking where you're now tweaking your brain settings.
There's a lot of tweaking that can be had. But
For sure.
yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting one because if I think if we're talking like just setup, and sure, I might have been pretty lax about suspension or maybe not kind of found a happy point and just stuck with that. And I think I still do that even now with bikes. But I am really particular of like where my contact points are and like super over the top about it. Like I can't ride a bike if it's not like that. And like I measure how far kind of like where relative to like the grip. I try to run the same grips usually, like where my levers are. And I crack up because I was riding with Lauren the other day and she like I had to help her down a section that was pretty like eroded from the rain. And I like grab her bike for her and like we're like it's like fully opposite her levers. Like one's flat and one's almost straight down. And I'm like, you know, your levers are all different. She's like, I thought my bike kind of felt weird. And I'm like, if I got on my bike on this, I'd be like, did I crash last time I rode? I probably need to like loosen this and like get the tension out and then retighten everything. Like what is going on my bike? I could not do it. And same with like lever pull. Lever pull's got to be in a certain parameter and the same for front and rear. Like I'll just swap pads like on like a monthly basis if they're not staying the same.
Really?
Yeah. But for me, like I can only go as fast as I can stop safely usually. And so like my brakes, I would rather my suspension be fully blown out or just total garbage as long as I can stop because at least like I'm like all right well I'll just push through the bike feeling like garbage but at least I can like safely come to a stop if I need to but and then like I don't know I actually as time's gone on I've gotten like too focused on lever positioning because I realized that like how inboard you run your levers starts to change like the angle of your wrist which changes the angle of your elbows and like and then it's like, okay, well, is the bike not cornering or are my levers like too close to my grips and now my wrists are straighter? And so now I'm starting to tuck elbows more often. What's that?
I noticed that more than anything.
Exactly.
Like it's got to be like a finger between the lever and the grip.
Mm-hmm.
And I've like taken the time to measure it and everything. Use like calipers and get exact. And
7
every time I do
millimeters.
it, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just like
That's
my
what I'm
finger.
thinking.
Like, yeah, pretty much. And I'm just like that, and then bar roll. And it's like I'm not finicky with that stuff unless it's blatantly off. Like if I get on the bike and I'm just like, God, my wrists are killing me. Like I need to roll the bars back or forward, whatever. And then same with lever position. If it's way too far out, they start to hit my knuckles and they got to go in slightly.
So here's my theory. That doesn't actually matter for bicycle performance, right? All that stuff that we're
Right.
talking about, because I just told you,
100%.
it's 7 millimeters for me. I already know that. I've measured it. Like I literally have Sharpie lines on like the gold Sharpie, on my handlebars, so
Yeah.
I can always put
I
it
use
back.
silver.
Yeah.
But it does come down to like user performance. The bike's going to do its thing no matter what.
But here's what I'm saying. It's the first thing that you feel, right? So what were the other things you said? You said tire pressure.
Bar width, lever position, or tire pressure. Like if you messed with one of what would mess you up the most if one of those was tweaked.
Yeah, and it's like I can't even tell what feedback I'm getting from my tires because I'm thinking through why you would answer this way because I'm not getting consistent feedback from my hands, right? Like how am I supposed to tell you what my front tire is doing if I can't even feel my hands right? Like they're just in this crazy spot.
Yeah.
Like I need to sort out this before I can even think about what happens lower down the chain.
I agree with that. I think I'm
Right.
the same way. Yeah. I'm like that with the thickness of grips. Like if I get on a bike and the grips are like too thick for what I like the whole,
Johnny's.
but like the whole bike to me will feel just like, I don't know, like not easy to move around, and it just feels like I'm not vibing with it. Or if I get on a bike that's super thin gripped, it feels like flimsy and kind of sketchy and just like not solid.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But like I'll run different thickness grips depending on like the size of the travel amount of the bike. Like my BMX bike, because it's so tiny and like sketchy and small, like I run really thick grips on it because it makes it just feel like
really?
bigger
And more
then, like,
substantial.
Yeah, but
like
like
in your brain, you're like, yeah.
like stroll that, and then it doesn't
need
hurt,
to
doesn't hurt my
stretch it.
wrists as bad. But then like on a downhill bike, I can get away with thinner grips than I'll run on like most bikes I test now, because I just like to like, if I have to, be able to like death grip it out. I don't know, it's
I
really
go
weird.
down. I go like the smaller the bike, the thinner the grip, kind of like match the
I do that in bar
maneuverability
width.
I do that with bar width too.
bar
Yeah,
width too.
for sure.
But then also like brake lever position. If the bike's longer, they'll end up being flatter, and if it's taller, I kind
Really?
of if it's shorter, I tower over it more so they get steeper.
Huh?
Just
That makes sense. You're tall. Yeah.
So
I do the opposite, because as a bike gets longer to me, if my levers come up too much, it pushes my body weight back, and then I don't have as much front wheel traction. So I'll start to roll my levers forward the more kind of strung out on a bike, or if I'm just having issues with like not feeling sad.
well, that's where like
equally on
that
the
bar
bike.
roll will go slightly back on the longer bike, but the brake levers come up with it,
Interesting.
and then just kind of like helps keep my hands in the same contact patch. If they're too far forward, then I notice like the outside of my hands start to hurt, my wrists start to hurt. Too far back, it's like just all wrist pain, and
Man, if you've made it this far through us talking about
everything.
I love this stuff. I'm sitting here just like,
Yeah.
You guys knew? You guys
Cold, Jerry, cold.
I learned
forum come to life.
I pulled a lot of that from Dakota, because when we were in even going,
Hi, I'm Dakota.
Yeah, seriously, dude. He runs bars taller than me, and he's like, not as
it's
tall.
all the damn Harleys he's riding.
Yeah, for sure.
hog.
Where was I going with that? Oh, like, kind of right when he started racing World Cups, I was like doing my hardest push for it. And so maybe,
Well, he had to race on a Morpheus, so
yeah. That alone should have told us right off the bat he was going to do well. Like
Not concerned.
uphill battle from the get-go.
Right.
Anyways, but like if I heard people doing things, or like everybody was running really flat levers at the time, I think they still kind of are. And I was like, maybe that's what I need to do. I'm going to put my levers flatter. And I like saw his bike at a race, and they were like so steep. And I was
BMX
like,
guy.
Yeah, BMX, thing
BMX
for
guy.
sure.
But his point had to do with more like rolling his shoulders and elbows. And it wasn't, I think he might have moved his a little bit, but I was like, I've never thought about that. And that was probably the beginning of me focusing on that more, because like kind of to your point about that's where it starts. You can't think about what your, how your front tire is feeling if you don't feel like you're vibing with where you're holding on to the bike. Like I focus on that way more, knowing that if I'm comfortable with where I'm at over any given bike, like I can compensate for it not doing something I want, or then I can start to think about that next thing.
Yeah. Also, Sorry, Johnny. I just want to let the audience know I did take a roll around the parking lot on Jason's bike. Brake levers felt phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rear is actually loose because carbon bars and no carbon base. So I was adjusting it all day today.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah,
really,
I knew you noticed that, but
pull was snappy. Pull was even. Yeah. It was a nice
lovely.
tight throw. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I'm just a hypocrite because even on test bikes, like I usually don't go that crazy on it. Like my personal bike, I make sure it's pre-dialed. But like a test bike, it's like, I don't know, I'll look past certain little things like that. Usually because it's like there's so many things to suss out anyways.
Yeah.
All right, we were talking about the one-piece bar stem combo on that Trek. And is that the future? What do you guys do if you want to have particular bar roll?
I don't think it's the future. I keep going back to like you only get that bar on certain builds, which is like there's different ways to look at that, but like it's not like Trek's flooding the market with those bars on all their builds or whatever. So maybe they don't even, it's just weird to me that they're like, this is what the highest performing bike that we offer should have on it. Like, I don't really know who wanted that to begin with, but yeah, I'm anti it from the adjustability standpoint. I mean, if you fall and damage your handlebar, now you're buying a stem or another one-piece bar, I guess. And I don't know. I mean, stiffness becomes a factor and compliance or lack of it, I would assume, but I don't know. It's not something I was looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know. On that bike, though, like, I don't kind of like, there's so many other factors of that bike. Like, I'm not getting front wheel grip because of this one piece bar stem. Like, sure, it probably feels a tad stiffer, but that could just be me being like, well, it's one piece. It's going to be stiffer. Like, I took it off immediately because the rise was too low and yeah, I wanted it to be higher. So, but yeah.
You didn't buy a different $300 handlebar stem combo?
You didn't try the Synchros one?
Weird choice.
Interesting.
Johnny, thoughts?
The net.
I think probably not. I mean, it seems like they're just going to keep making them, especially with everything going internal. I'm sure they'll probably incorporate it somehow, but like, I think the way that road stems have wedges you can put in to adjust the degree of like rise or drop, there needs to be something like that if you're going to shove that down people's throats. Like, it's got to be some way to personalize it. But they didn't feel bad. I rode the bike around too, and
They felt like a handlebar?
yeah, definitely. They had grips and everything. So
They look gross.
yeah,
That's personal.
yeah.
It looks, I don't like the look of it at all. But maybe it's just because it's new. I don't know.
Yeah, and the ones they put on downhill bikes, I'm just like, why? Like,
I have heard those are because it's Scott is the only one I can think of that like the Synchros one.
yeah. They're like,
I heard it was horrible. I heard it was like the stiffest thing ever.
Oh, sure, yeah.
yeah, just a direct mount variant. I just
On the downhill bike or the, yeah.
yeah.
You know how like we anthropomorphize objects? Like in our brain, when you see the front of a car, you like see a face in the front of a car.
Yeah.
Hammerhead shark.
Yeah, I see Voldemort. You know, like the no nose thing, right? When I see those handlebar stem combos, they're just like all like mushed in and weird looking. They look terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
We need to start making memes. That'd be a good meme.
they
Yeah,
look.
I just see like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah,
Just
they look
like
really
just
terrible.
Orange.
Doesn't it seem like the biggest advantage for a bike brand is that you have one part now instead of two that you have to deal with?
Oh yeah,
I'd agree.
But it's so expensive. Like, you're
I
not
know,
going to
it's
put that on the other bikes. You're still going to have a carbon standard bar and an aluminum standard bar if you can afford to make one of those things. Like, I don't know any small companies that are making those as like an OE spec. So,
but hold up, you have reduced SKUs and increased value at the same time, right?
you've reduced and increased SKUs. Like, on that bike, there's less, but overall, now you have another one.
Because you have multiple.
Yeah, instead of just like one stem, now you have like a bar stem and two handlebars you make.
Yeah. But
for the bike alone, yeah, it's less SKUs for that model.
so I hate it, right? I just absolutely hate those things on road bikes, on mountain bikes. Like, it's so stupid to me because the most important thing for bicycle performance is fit.
Yeah,
Like-
we were just talking about. It's the first thing you notice. Like, if it's off, you're like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Get to buy new handlebars for my brand new bike.
And literally, it's huge with cross country guys and road bike guys or girls, right? I'm using guys in the non-gendered way, but the general guys. But those sports, like literally your power output is determined by your body position. And not only that, but injuries come from body position, right? So if you're out of position for a very long time, that adds up and you have like chronic use injuries. So fine tuning bike fit is like super crazy important. And you've put this enormous hurdle in the way of people so that they're probably going to give up. And there's a certain customer that can just afford to just keep buying $300 bars and stems until they find one that works, and can afford a bike fitter that can sit through that horrible process of waiting 2 weeks, or maybe you just buy 7 handlebars at the same time for your bike fit, or I don't know what that process looks like, and I really don't want to know. By the way, some of them are internally cable routed too, right? Like the Scott ones, I want to say. So it's terrible, but if you're keeping it, like Jason said, if you're keeping it on Halo builds, who cares, right? Like no one who's buying an $11,000 mountain bike is like, their problems are not real people problems.
They
Right?
just want it to be as light as possible usually.
Yeah, they want something that's special and expensive looking.
And stands out.
Yeah, like look at this cool thing that I have.
And everyone's like, it's not that cool, dude.
So my only
Bummer. Just like,
cool.
oh, you got that one. That's pretty cool.
Totally. But if your friends make noises like that, that's not good.
Yeah, they're not stoked.
Yeah, they might not be your friends. But you're the one friend at the party that they're like, oh, cool. Glad you showed up, man.
I like how Charlie looks at the camera.
Yeah. I'm just trying, just the general knowledge, right? But just trying to be helpful
It's
here.
a public service.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is free.
Yeah.
First session's free.
Yeah. You may be that friend. But
You have the Voldemort bars.
yeah. Here's another PSA. Can't buy a personality. Sorry. Yeah. No matter how much carbon you buy, not a personality. But anyway, as long as we keep it on the $11,000 bikes, totally fine with it. But I guarantee you, aluminum versions are coming, right? Like it's going, because...
No way, bar stem combo alloy?
Coming. Absolutely. Because it's the same thing as internal like headset cable routing and stuff. Because if the customer sees it on the high-end bike, like think about how many useless, horrible, stupid features you see on like a Walmart bike. Like a full suspension Walmart bike with disc brakes.
Just look-alike things like deep dish rims on like plus tire. It doesn't make sense, but there's like someone chose a bunch of buzzwords and then threw it together and was like, yeah, that'll be the bike.
It has more features? Cool.
Yeah.
I want the one with more features.
Yeah. Those are
For the
deep
same
dish-
price?
Yeah, they're deep dish rims that are twice the height, but they're also like triple the weight.
Yeah.
It's just the look.
Right. Like, again, I get putting internal impossible to work on cable routing through like your stem backwards and upside down and whatever on a bike where someone is willing to pay $500 to get a cable swapped. But it kills me when you start seeing that stuff on like $1,500 gravel bikes and XC bikes, because that is really making the user's life horrible, right? Because that guy or girl is going into a bike shop and they're about to have their life ruined. Right?
Their innocent little bike purchase, and then it's time for service, and they're just like, you have
It's
to do
totaled.
what? Yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta drop the motor out.
Yeah, exactly. To change a light bulb, really? Yeah, it's like, but it looks great in the catalog or on the showroom floor or
I
whatever,
feel like
right?
Walmart bikes are the place for the alloy stem handlebar combo. Like that's where they're gonna thrive.
The first mountain bikes had that, like the triangle, like it was a quill stem and it was like a triangle thing that connected to the bar. So
back.
yeah, if we're coming back in, why not, right? Yeah.
Low maintenance cost is such a hard sell, right? When you think that's such a, it's hard to quantify or prove. Like it will probably be easier if you have to do this repair in the lifetime of the bicycle, right? Like, you know this, most customers don't even know they have to do repairs to bicycles.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean it doesn't run forever?
It's brand new.
Yeah.
When did you buy it? 2019.
Yeah. That was 4 years ago now. Like, how many miles do you have on it? Just like 2,500. What do you mean it needs a chain and cassette and chain ring?
Yeah.
It's like, well, it would have been just a chain if you did it when it said to, but now you're
Because
in too deep.
there's a big difference between giving the customer a better user experience and selling them a product right now. right? Like those are two very different propositions. And those two thought processes lead you down different. Sometimes they line up, but sometimes
when people
they don't.
care, they do.
Yeah. But that's like a pretty small portion of the pie.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you want to make the sale right now.
Yeah, make it enticing and make it seem like it's gonna run forever.
Mm-hmm.
Don't mention any of that stuff. Just bury it in the manual on like page 50, where it's just like, yeah, if you don't do this, it's gonna get really expensive really fast. But nobody wants to hear that, and nobody reads that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I read that because I'm like, wait, what's how much do I tighten this? Like, I don't even know all this is in here.
But I'm the grump that's like suspicious of power windows in cars. You know, I'm like, I don't know, these are going to be tough to fix.
Dude, the Yaris, all manual. Everything's manual. It only came with air conditioning. That's it. And I rode in your 2006 Prius. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, dog.
There's not much. There's not much in there. That was pretty cool. Dang, dude, still no
Weird
questions.
flex.
Still no questions.
No Instagram questions.
So you gotta just go in the tech forum and ask. Does anybody have questions?
We should have. That would
Anybody
be a
have
good
questions
idea.
for Charlie?
I'm just going to make a bunch of burner accounts after this and just add comments so it looks like somebody cared.
I'll just delete it when this is done. I'll just
Yeah. It's a great picture.
It's great sound.
Did you do hashtags?
No.
That was it.
Maybe the Instagram just didn't flood the feed.
Yeah, didn't. Needs to be on the
Did you put it on the story?
search page. No, it was a feed post because we can't. It's just easier to get
We'll just share it to the story.
responses. We're gonna be here that much longer?
Maybe not.
What else did we have to talk about?
We talked about a lot of things.
We did cover a lot.
We covered the soil triangle, guys.
We did.
Yeah.
You hate electric shifting
Dude,
still?
there's questions on here.
What?
Oh, good. My feed wasn't
You
refreshing
can
then, so
You
good
can
thing
go to
Johnny's
bed
Instagram
feeling good
Yeah.
about yourself.
You got like
No fake account.
Smomer's just
needed.
like, I mean, we don't really need
I know,
to,
like it
ask
says
him.
1
It's
hour
like-
ago, and there's no replies.
What a power move if he was just lying to just tear me
Yeah,
down.
just so we could
Yeah.
have
He's like, no,
yeah,
you're
that's what I'm
good.
breaking
You're
down.
good.
And nobody wants to.
He's like, these are good, but I don't know if you're this good. All right. Should we jump into them?
Yeah.
We got Dennis Yershak. Do you
Ooh.
listen to Slayer before or after attending church?
or during.
Have you guys seen that Jesus listens to Slayer billboard? It's
No, but I feel
really
like I
good.
need to.
I think that Tom Araya covers a variety of faith-related themes in the Slayer. Oof. Yeah. The catalog.
I think I heard they use that word on Portlandia, and you're from Portland. You just stole it from
listen to
Portlandia,
Slayer.
I
didn't you?
did. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really funny.
Yeah. I think he does.
Is music like that your taste? Is that what you're into?
I absolutely love Slayer. Yeah. Yeah. Like my two favorite bands are Slayer and the Beatles. Yeah.
Full
That's
spectrum.
amazing.
Eclectic taste, yeah.
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 Really a well-rounded person.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do I listen to it before or after church? I think that's an after church thing because I am always running behind and scrambling to get something ready. So I work at a church. I'm a middle school and high school youth pastor, although I'm actually not a pastor. I'm a director. So that's different. It's a different title. But anyway, it's the same thing. And this will not be a surprise to anyone who knows me. I'm turning in my homework late on Sunday morning every week. So I'm scrambling to get stuff ready for the lesson or like jotting my notes. This yellow notepad is like where 90% of my work happens because I'm just like, there's 3 points. We're going to talk about those today. And so there's definitely no time for Slayer before. I already have a lot of noise in my brain before going into church on a Sunday morning. So yeah,
There's
Slayer.
always time for the tech forum.
That's when most of it happens.
That's why the work is late.
It's like, sorry, kids, I'll get to you in a minute. I gotta
Sorry,
respond.
but what do you guys think about? Just tell me, what do you guys think about spoke tension? Like, this is just driving me nuts. I can't even talk right now.
No, I'll draw a diagram. Yeah, for sure. So Slayer after church.
All right, hit another.
All right, Tanya wants to know. Tell us thoughts behind the kill yourself water bottles.
Ooh, yeah.
We talked about this on, I think we did when we did our podcast, or maybe it was before or after, but
Yeah.
Grizz left his Team Robot, why don't you kill yourself, go kill yourself water bottle in my garage. And my son Oliver walks up, he's like, why do you want to kill yourself? Like, so that's the impression you're having on little children. Just want to let you know that.
I love this question following you kind of touching on your personal life and what you do for work.
I could have ordered this a little better. That was the Slayer question.
Yeah, well, it's just to be clear, Connor's your son's name?
This was Oliver.
Oliver, yeah.
Charlie, yeah.
So it actually isn't saying that I want to kill myself, the bottle. It's a command to the viewer to kill themselves. It's the
why it's
bottle
awesome.
From
says,
Team Robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to the top of a climb and look over and you see that. You're just like, oh, man.
So the origin of this joke goes way back to, there were 3 original members of Team Robot, which is this group that myself and my other 2 friends made. Because like, oh, well, we race downhill bikes and we need to get sponsorship and maybe a team is helpful. And that was when there was that like Team Dino thing where they made t-shirts. It's not important. And we thought that was a funny name. And we were debating on team names and we landed on Team Robot. And then that became the blog and that was the whole thing. And anyway, Patrick, when he played high school soccer, they had a new teacher. I think he was like a physics teacher or whatever, but he was at a game and the band was playing like in between, like there were volleys going back and forth and it was a tight game. And the band is playing and no one's cheering along because it was like a break in the action or something. And this new teacher who's like fresh out of grad school, like this is his first full-time gig. He gets the job. He's at the high school game. He's trying to like prove himself and be all about the high school. He's front row and he turns around. He's like, make some noise, right? And he's like so into it and enthusiastic. No one makes any noise at all. And then like 5 solid seconds later, as he's like, no, make some noise, someone just from the top row yells, kill yourself. He just stops, turns around, and sits down.
That's straight out of a South Park episode, dude.
That's so mean.
It's so brutal. It's so brutal, but it's so high school, right?
Yeah.
Like
Kids are evil.
Kids are so mean. Kids are so ruthless. But it's just super funny. And so we would yell that back and forth at each other. And I think where that came from, like, why did we make why did we make water bottles that said kill yourself on them, is because something happened during my lifetime where biking went from being a super niche thing of like extreme enthusiasts who like had a problem where you're like, hey, maybe tone it down a little bit, to being like jogging or like golf or like hiking, like something that's super duper open to everyone and inviting, and we're trying to like bring everyone into it. And on some level, that's super cool. But something that was very weird is this like annoying, constant, like over positivity where everyone's just way too encouraging about everything all the time and nothing's ever wrong or bad or could be improved. Like everyone's just doing so super and that's just not helpful for improving at something, because it's like the sport had gone from being insiders who are constantly trying to build a bigger jump or learn how to 360 or corner a little bit faster. Like, I'm going to hike that turn over and over again and try and learn faster, to just like, you went on any bike ride of any distance at all sometime, you're a hero, right?
Kill yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because there just needs to be a balancing of that scale.
Like the guy on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
No flaws that you think is there, but you're just so hyped up on yourself. Like,
yeah. Like, can we just bring it? It doesn't. We don't all have to be doing this, but maybe.
Tone it down.
Like, it's so hard for me to like when I go for rides with beginners or whatever. And they're like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, wow, you're just way better. And it's this awkward thing, right? Where they're like amazed that, oh, you're really, really good at this. And it's sort of like, well, I hope I'm a lot better than you. Right?
Yeah.
I've put so much time and effort into this and money. And so much credit card debt. Right? I've suffered anguish at the hands of this bicycle, and you just bought one.
Yeah.
And you're running reflectors. Like, yeah, I hope I'm a lot better than you. You're not good. And that's not an indictment of your character or something, right? Like, you're just learning. Like you wouldn't pick up a baseball bat and be like, oh, I think I could play in the majors. So yeah, kill yourself.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Like everyone's a beginner at some point, and that's super duper, but just you're a beginner. Right?
Yeah.
So be stoked about that. Be like, oh, I'm a beginner and I'm figuring things out.
And that's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
That's okay.
Man, I'm so bummed I lost that water bottle. That's the first time I met you. I believe it was National Champs when it was at Snowshoe. And you walked up, and I think you just had like a bunch on you, and
Yeah.
were just handing them out.
Yep.
And I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever." I met the like Team Robot dude for realsies, because I'm sure we crossed paths somewhere
Yeah.
before that. And I was like, "And I got a water bottle, even says it on it." Yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah. And then the other thing is that like the robots, that was like the pseudonymous character, right? That's writing everything. And the robots just hate people in general, right? So like the robot apocalypse is coming. You'll all be wiped out. So like do us a favor. Just get it over with, right? Like it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like let's make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Kill yourself. So
That's what we should do on another one of these, is revisit old Team Robot articles you wrote.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
That'd be super entertaining, because like there's just so many. I mean,
How has this
yeah,
evolved?
Lear Miller photo guy is still Lear Miller's name in my phone. So
dude, I just saw, God, what bike product launch? I think it was the Ibis one.
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. It was maybe it was the hardtail. I don't know what it was. But there was this stupid photo of someone riding in like perfect nug light at sunset.
With Loam.
No. And it was shot in Santa Cruz. I can't remember. It was like the grassy upper Santa Cruz stuff. And they were riding across a really thin single track towards an enormous puddle. like the whole trail just flared out, and there was just this huge puddle and no sign of any way to get around it in the grass, but it was like sort of in the forefront and your eyes aren't drawn towards it. So obviously the photographer was like, this will be fine, we can sneak this in there. But it was gonna be the worst bike ride ever, because the rest of the
Starting it off
trail
like that.
well, the rest of the trail is built exactly the same in the same grass and has the same puddles. It's like, this is the worst bike ride you could ever go on. But it just, and I looked at it, and who took the photo? Lear Miller.
Like, come on, dude.
Lear Miller.
You should have known you would catch that.
Yeah.
He's getting paid. Who cares?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can take the Lear out of Tempe, but you can't take the Tempe out of Lear. Yeah.
A lot of puddles in Tempe.
Anyway.
All right, another one. Are there more? Is there more than two?
Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah, I guess,
amazing.
I don't know. We can go on, how did everyone get brainwashed into using the term loam incorrectly? Clements Ben wants to know.
Yeah, that's super easy.
Pull up the chart.
No, not the chart, right? They obviously did not consult
There's
the
so
chart.
many types.
Of course. But to be clear, like when people are using the term loam, typically in mountain biking, they're talking about topsoil, which is literally the layer that sits on top of loam. So like when you skid all of the loam off the loam, then you're just left with loam because there's no more loam. So now your loamer's a loamer,
Got it.
Who's on first?
right? That's why it's so annoying, is because it literally, you're using a word to describe its opposite, but pretending like it's not the opposite. You're like, I know technical jargon, right? I know geology. And you're like, yeah, up
Kill
means
yourself.
down. Yeah.
It's no different than using the term sick. Sick doesn't mean something is unhealthy. It means it's actually pretty cool.
It's not like using sick, because everyone in the world knows that I don't literally mean sick. Loam is like, I'm sneaking in like insider baseball. No, but nobody who uses the word loam knows that that's not what it means. They like think. It's like when people describe beta, they're like, oh, thanks for the sick trail beta. You're like, you have no idea what that means. And if you do know what it means, you should just stop using that for mountain biking, because it's just a rock climbing term. Like you don't need
It just means information.
Yeah, but you don't need to import that into our sport. We can just say,
You're like, get that out of here.
yeah, exactly.
I just learned what that means. I just heard that term yesterday.
on his V1 at the climbing gym.
Yeah.
And so I literally went over to Lauren. I was like, yo, get this. This is what they call when you figure out how to climb something. I'm like, I just call it staring at it.
Figuring it out.
Staring at the wall, attempting.
Oh, you got a beta.
And
Yeah.
so
Non-beta flash.
I was like,
on-site,
damn, this
something or other.
sport, dude, that's a whole other topic. Rock climbing is the most epically pretentious thing I've ever attempted to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Anyways.
you have to approach the route like,
Oh my
with
God.
the right kind of style.
Eating a
and
granola
steps.
bar with capris on.
Yeah, for sure. It's like mall grabbing your skateboard. Like you can't do other things. Let's back to Loam.
So the question is, how did this like misnomer, how did this propagate? It's just because people like to sound smart. I just use the word propagate, right? Because it's a big word, and suddenly I feel better about myself. Like I use a $10 Jeopardy word, right? And Loam is just, I want to sound like I know
There's
something.
nothing $10 on Jeopardy, but that's cool.
That's a fair point. That was a bad analogy.
All right, that's all
It
right.
starts at
I
100.
just had to get you back because I'm like, but sick is the same thing. Right? You're like, no, it's not. I'm like, all right.
He's like, nice try, sit down.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more like $1,000 word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, people want to sound smart. The problem is that you sound the opposite of smart when you use a smart word wrong.
Yep.
You sound dumb.
And it's that over exaggeration you're talking about when people are new at something and they want to feel included. They're like, oh, it was the sickest ride. That's why
Sickest Loamer.
that's why I GoPro the whole thing and didn't cut any of the clips. Like, don't you want to watch it for 10 minutes uncut? Anyhow,
Next. Loam's been covered.
let's see.
I'm going to continue to use it. I use it more now
so
because you
am I.
hate it so much.
Yeah, I know that's the thing. Like the rebel, it's just gonna be like, oh, he doesn't like it. I'm gonna use it every time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gravel ride, Loam,
yeah, Loamer,
which is probably actually accurate, right? Yeah.
probably. Matt Thompson wants to know, tell us about the right thumb injury and why he can't close the horns.
Close the horns. Oh, yeah.
You can't do this.
I mean, I probably can. Yeah, I just,
It
I'm
looks
really,
like you're struggling.
yeah, I'm very gingerly with this thumb. I have a ulnar collateral ligament like restitch. So I've got
That's
a
a
little,
$2,000 Jeopardy word right there.
yeah. So that's the one, it's called skier's thumb, but that's the one that prevents this. So like there was a time where I could move this thumb really, really far. And I know why Matt is talking about this because we were talking about bottom bracket height. So I was testing, I have ridden for a lot of good bike companies and I've ridden for some other bike companies. And one of the other bike companies I was testing, a downhill frame that like it would come out of the jig wildly different every time. So we had one where it was all wrong. And I had a friend that worked at a machine shop and it had a removable forward shock mount. So he machined one that like moved the forward shock mount 10 mils lower or forward. So it would sit lower, bottom brackets lower, head angle was slacker. And then the next bike we got was the same dimensions, but was good. So it showed up the way it was supposed to show up. And I thought, well, why don't I just try this forward shock mount and see what like really slack and really low feels like? Because that'd be cool, right? So it was like a super low ground dragging bottom bracket. And it felt amazing in turns. And then we were riding in Bend and there's this really gnarly rock drop. And I like kind of knuckled a rock in the landing because it's like this rough rock landing. And it's a 15-foot or so drop where you're already moving pretty good. And I knuckled it and just bottomed out the chainring on the rock and the bike just stopped. Right? Like going very quick downhill, landing a drop and the bike just stopped. And so my thumb just went, whoa, boom. And I didn't feel any of this because I'm in the middle of the most chaotic, violent crash ever, right? Just like tomahawking down a rock field. And luckily, I had like a double flat from just the bike tumbling into rocks. So I was about to try and ride it down after I like collected my senses. And I didn't. But driving home, my thumb like hurt more and more and more. And that's how I did it. So I like tore it off. And what they did, this is pretty cool. They put a bone anchor in there with dissolving threads. And then they stitched my ligament back down to the bone. And then the ligament and the bone fuse together over time and the threads dissolve. And that was 10 years ago. We're great. And here was the real test is that my first time riding again was Sea Otter. And top of the downhill track, there was that like tabletop to like roller that you could gap all the way.
Yeah, the
Like
wheels
into the
back.
berm.
Yeah, I cased the ever loving shit out of that. Like nose first, like boom, and almost didn't ride out of it. That was my first ride back after surgery. Surgery was February, and then Sea Otter's like April or something.
Oh, wow, that's quick.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, okay, well, we'll see, and we're good to go. So that Rolf Solberg, if you're looking for a good thumb surgeon. Yeah. Yeah, Rolf Solberg.
Sea Otter approved.
10 out of 10. Yeah.
Let's see. Clay
Thanks,
Harper
Matt.
wants to know, you got any regrets?
Any regrets?
Yeah.
I mean,
The kill yourself water bottle that my son saw.
You ever think about that?
oh yeah, for sure. After doing before and after doing that, I was like, this is, suicide's a pretty serious topic, but I think anyone would see that and know that that's clearly a joke. I hope. Regrets? Probably. I think I already told you that I'm chronic overthinker. So there's a million things that I would do differently. If I could go back in time knowing what I know now, I would run heavier tires all the time, and I would run faster rebound and a stiffer fork if I could do that. And I would just not train as much. But those aren't regrets because I had to learn those things.
Does the faster rebound come because you have heavier tires?
Oh, that's funny. No, it's just because I lived in the Northwest and there's no bumps.
Mm-hmm.
In the entire state of Oregon, there's 4 bumps. So you just set it up so you can pump, right? Mm-hmm. You set it up so you can pump and jump and turn and turn on smooth berms. Maybe you have brake bumps, but you just get tough through brake bumps a couple of times per run. So yeah, I would do horribly when I traveled. I would just do terribly, and fast rebound is way better.
Yeah.
But that's not really a regret. So I think if I were to get a tattoo, it would be no regrets.
Yeah.
Because that's what someone tells themselves when they have lots of regrets, but they're trying not to. And no regrets sort of captures that, Like
it's clearly regrettable.
yeah, exactly. There are so many things I would take back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is just being an asshole, right? There's things where I look back and I'm like, ooh, I wish... when I hear stories and I work with middle schoolers and high schoolers now, and it's so easy to hate those kids because they're terrible sometimes. But I was so terrible. I was the worst kid. I would make my teachers pull their hair out, and I would go back and not do that again.
Yeah.
If I could learn in school instead of just driving people crazy, I would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I had to learn things like empathy. There was a time when that occurred. It's oh, I don't think my teachers appreciate it when I drill class.
Do you know when that do you have a time where oh, Mrs. Smith in 4th grade, blah, blah, blah. You remember when?
Oh, I know exactly when it was. It was college. It was fully college. Yeah. I had to retake my senior year of classes because I was literally arguing with teachers and they flunked me out. And then I processed that, which was the gnarliest moment of my life of oh my goodness, I have to pay for a whole nother year of college. Right. And I retook those classes and somewhere in there, I processed the fact that my teachers are really just trying to teach me, right? They don't have all the answers, and I'm a different student than a lot of the students, and they have a class of 30 students, and blah 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 blah. And yeah, I like to think that I did a much better job of retaking those classes. I was in office hours, I was asking questions, I was real questions, not a haha I got you question. And yeah, but I mean that's crazy that it took me until age 21 or 22 or something to care about other people's feelings.
But you had to learn that.
And what's crazy, and this is even more maddening if you think about I have to work with kids. I knew what other people's feelings were. It's not that I wasn't aware of other people's feelings. It's that I could tell exactly how they felt and I just didn't care. In fact, maybe I enjoyed making them feel worse. I'm oh, when I hit this button, they get angry. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's
fair.
Team Robot blogs in a nutshell, a little bit.
Yeah.
You're fine, no one else will say it, I'll say it.
Well, that's after you learn the lesson, huh?
Yeah, and that was a constant tension.
Whoa, really? Well, then
yeah.
I guess you're always learning.
It was before, during, and after, and that's a constant question because somebody needs to say it.
That was just an outlet for it. It wasn't like real people. You're like, I'll just throw this on the internet.
I think my hope is that it feels collegial. Like in the same way that
like everyone's thinking it.
Well, and also like we give each other a hard time and my friends give each other a hard time. So like you're not free from that because you're a bike company, right? Like we're all bike riders, so I can give you a hard time, but not everyone felt that way.
It's too bad.
You've got livings to make off of the stuff you're making fun of.
We got to go down that rabbit hole sometime, another time.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be really entertaining. Just pick a handful.
Yeah.
All right, do we got any...
A couple more Instas and maybe wrap it up.
Yeah, some wrap-up ones here.
Brian Lopes wants to know, why the fuck are you drinking a LaCroix? The old Team Robot would ban you for life with a move like that.
Dude, that's strong hate.
Is that Brian Lopes?
That's Brian Lopes.
Blue check, Brian Lopes.
That's a blue check.
Brian Lopez.
Brian, this is not the last time.
I'm going to text him right now that we're going to use this one.
Yeah. This is not the first or last time I'll disappoint you. I promise. So that's what I got for you. And also, I just do want to point out once again that I have 3 forms of hydration going on here. So
a lot of dampening.
Yeah. So Brian, very dampened. Very dampened. So there is alcohol in the mix. I promise. Yeah. And I do love LaCroix. And my former self would hate me. He's spot on about that. Yeah. He's spot on.
Before we go further, Johnny, you enlightened us as to how they get the flavor in LaCroix. It's a nice little tangent.
Yeah, fruit essence. Crazy. It's just like the condensation collected from boiling fruit down. And that's it. That's why it tastes like the idea of a flavor and not an actual flavor.
So it's literally the vapor.
It's like fruit sweat.
Vape in a can.
Yeah.
In the air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can buy barrels of it apparently. So
now, hold on. Are you buying barrels of the boiled off fruit, or are you buying barrels of vapor?
Vapor, the essence.
The essence.
That's what it's called.
It's a barrel of essence.
The essence of water.
Yeah. It's the essence of passion fruit.
So is that what an essential oil is? Is that like...
It's essentially an oil.
Essence?
Yeah.
Essential?
So it's like...
I thought it was like mandatory, like required. Like, this is an essential oil. You gotta have this.
Like your main food groups, your main oils, your essential ones.
I always just thought it was just a completely made up meaningless term, right? Like I thought essential oil just meant oil, right? So like if you have essential eucalyptus oil, it's just eucalyptus oil, but it might be...
It's the
We just Googled it. It is
oil.
the same thing. It's either pressed or distilled plant extracts.
So pressed is just oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, distilled. Okay. So it just is oil.
The big question, is there essential shock oil? Could be a new business. Team Robot comes back. Essential shock oils.
Got some
Organic essential. Yeah. Shock oil.
Non-GMO. Just all the hit everything.
so many benefits.
That's funny. Thanks for the call out, Brian Lopes.
That was sick.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
None of that changes the fact that I destroyed you at Downhill Domination, by the way. So,
Oh, snap.
yeah, that happened. Yeah.
At,
Downhill Domination, the video game.
As him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ride
Yeah.
the prototype.
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Always the prototype, dude. Yeah. Although, hold up. I don't think you get to choose your bike when you choose Brian. Right? I think you're just on a GT.
I think yeah, I don't know. Well, no, because you could ride like a llama. Like
But can
horse.
Brian ride a llama?
I think so. Because they were like additional ones, like cheat
Yeah.
codes.
Dude, he lives down the street. Let's come back tomorrow night and we'll do this. We'll talk about it all.
See if he has a prototype in the garage.
The prototype bike was almost like unrideably fast on some courses.
Yeah.
Like Medul Freeride, it would like really come hot into the turns.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
some of those lips are just aggressive.
For sure.
Every fork had like 12 inches of travel. It's like a float F100. And then the replay, it's just like, holy shit.
All single crowns.
Yeah,
too.
all single kind.
Yeah.
But then you had like the Dorado on the prototype. You can never tell how much travel it really had.
For sure.
Yeah.
Any more goodies?
Not that I'm seeing. That looks like all we got.
It's like kill yourself, kill yourself, kill
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You get banned from Instagram saying that kind of stuff now, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, Tanner's, he put ones instead of L's. so he gets it. Just tiptoeing around those guidelines.
Oh, nice.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's next level.
That is really smart.
Some forward thinking.
I wouldn't know to do that until now. Thanks, Tanner. Yeah, so for those of you planning on posting hate speech on social media, you can replace some of the letters and get around the algorithm.
With numbers.
So there you go. Yeah.
Team Robots tip of the day.
And like, is that how we end it?
So it seems like a pretty good ending. We're an hour and 43 minutes. That's enough. Yeah.
Yeah, your worst fear. Well,
Yeah, you weren't happy with the length of our interview last time?
No, I was horrified.
No way. It was
Horrified.
awesome.
I'm glad you think so. I've had people have told me like I listened to it, but I listened to it in like 7 sessions. So yeah, that's a big But
Longer, better.
well, you just get that one beer in me, and just
Is it empty?
yes, it is. There we go.
Hydration.
Brian.
You happy, Brian?
There you go, Brian. That's for you.
Dang.
Thanks, everyone. Inside line, ride along. I don't know, whatever we call it. Where's the camera? Which one am I looking at? That one?
I don't know.
You have options.
Okay, here's all of us. Wave goodbye, everybody, to the GoPro. Yay!
Hi, Mom.
Boom. And see, now you leave it recording, and then they don't know it, and then they say really good stuff. Oh, but that's you guys talking. So.
That is usually what happens.
Back to ASMR breathing.